So, WrestleMania 41, Night 2, we saw this really fascinating clash, didn't we? AJ Styles, a legend, basically, against Logan Paul.
Yeah, the internet guy turned WWE superstar. It's quite the matchup on paper.
Totally. We want to dig into the entrances, that drone thing.
Oh, yeah, the drone.
The interference, the styles clashing.
Yeah.
And just how people felt about it, because the reactions were kind of all over the place.
Okay, let's do it. Where should we start? Maybe the entrances. They really set the stage.
Good call. Paul's entrance was, well, it was pure Logan Paul, wasn't it?
Uh-huh. He comes out with this drone, like, filming himself, filming the VIPs.
Yeah. And then it flies off around the stadium, these big aerial shots, before coming back to him. It was slick, but very techy. The commentators even made that Falcon comparison, right? Setting out Red Wing.
They did. It's all about content creation with him, isn't it? Extending his brand, engaging that online audience even before he steps through the ropes. It's very 2025.
Then contrast that with AJ Styles. Music hits, he walks out. Simple, classic.
All business, focused on the match.
Pretty much, though somebody caught that sign on the hard cam, Prime makes me gag.
Huh. Yeah, saw that. A little nod to the brand war simmering underneath.
Definitely sets up that whole dynamic, the wrestler versus the influencer who built this huge thing outside the business.
And the video package before the match really hammered that home, too.
Oh, absolutely, with the rhyming voiceover.
Yeah, painting Styles as the guy who grinded for years, paid his dues across the globe.
Right, earned it the hard way. And then Paul, who kind of rocketed in, powered by fame and fortune from elsewhere, honor versus fame, basically. Earned greatness versus, I guess, manufactured stardom.
It taps into that bigger debate, doesn't it? Tradition versus the new way, experience versus, like, viral impact. You see it everywhere, not just wrestling.
So true. Okay, bell rings. What happens first?
They lock up collar and elbow. Pretty standard start. Styles uses his experience, gets Paul in the corner initially.
But Paul just uses that size difference. Reverses it pretty quick.
Exactly. That's the early Story Styles technique against Paul's raw athleticism and power. Bit of a stalemate.
And doesn't stay in the ring for long.
Nope. Spills outside fairly fast. Styles gets a few shots in, uses the ring skirt, classic veteran move. But then Paul turns it around, sends Styles into the barricade, hard, and then into the ring post. You felt that momentum shift there.
Yeah, he did. Paul taking control, using the environment. Pretty aggressive.
And then he goes airborne, that slingshot pescado to the floor.
Yes. Springboard dive. Followed it up, slamming Styles' head on the Spanish announce table. Standard heel stuff, but effective.
But then the drone comes back into play.
Right. This was weird. He goes over the Prime station, grabs the drone he came out with, and we get this extended sequence, felt like a minute or two maybe, where the main broadcast switches to the drone's camera feed, flying around inside the ring.
Yeah, it was different. Some people probably thought it was cool, innovative, a new angle.
But others, and I kind of lean this way, felt it just stopped the match cold, Like it didn't really add anything to the fight itself.
I get that. It felt like maybe there should have been more of a payoff. Like, was he going to use it as a weapon or distract AJ? But, Oop, just flew around.
Exactly. Bit of a letdown after the build-up. Anyway, back to the wrestling. Paul hit some big moves.
He did. The Paul from Grace, that springboard thing, got a 2 count.
Then the overbomb.
Yeah.
But Styles just managed to grab the ropes.
Yeah, showed desperation. Good save. Paul also landed a big boot, that running split leg drop thing, for only 1.
Only 1? Wow.
Yeah, then a regular moonsault press for 2. Even pulled out a buckshot lariat. Another near fall.
He's definitely adding more moves to his arsenal. It's not just power spots.
True. He's showing some range. But Styles, he's AJ Styles. He weathered the storm.
He did. Fired back with those quick punches, the phenomenal blitz combo.
Yep. The Ushigoroshi, that sliding forearm smash, he does so well.
Leaping clothesline in the corner, brainbuster for a 2 count. The commentators mentioned he looked bigger, right? More muscle.
They did, yeah. Maybe adapting his style a bit. He also hit that spinning rack bomb, another 2 count. Man, lots of near falls.
Kept you guessing. And then that sequence where Styles finally goes for the Styles clash.
But Paul scouts it, rolls through into a senton, then hits a lion salt.
Another near fall. That was close.
Super close. And later they had that crazy spot where they both countered each other's Styles clash attempts, and then both ended up hitting it on the other guy at different points.
Wild. Just shows the athleticism on display, really, and the ring IQ from both.
Totally. Okay, so that brings us to the finish.
Yeah, this is where it gets messy. Logan Paul's buddy, Jeff, shows up ringside.
Holding brass knuckles.
Uh-oh. Tries to slide him to Logan. But wait, Karrion Kross appears out of nowhere.
And the crowd actually popped for Kross. That was kind of surprising, wasn't it?
It really was. So Kross intercepts Jeff, gets the knucks.
But then he turns to Styles, actually calls him Alan, his real name.
Yeah. Please, Alan, use the knucks. Like begging him to cheat to win.
What a twist. But Styles refuses.
Flat out refuses, punches Kross instead, and got booed for it by some sections.
That's fascinating. The crowd wanting the win so bad they'd boo Styles for not cheating shows how invested they were, I guess. Or maybe just how much they wanted Logan to lose.
Could be.
And Meltzer's review actually talks about this, about how fans sometimes want the good guy, the babyface, to, fight dirty when the bad guy, the heel, does.
Huh. Like an eye for an eye kind of thing. Get retribution.
Yeah. Meltzer said fans can get frustrated if the hero doesn't take that chance to get even. He compared it to another match finish that night.
John Cena beating Cody Rhodes. Yeah. So Kross is down, Jeff is dealt with, Styles sets up for the phenomenal forearm.
The big finale.
But Paul ducks under it.
Yeah.
Lands that punch, the titanium punch they called it.
Oof. Connects clean.
And follows up immediately with the pulverizer, his finisher. 1, 2, 3. Logan Paul wins.
Wow. Okay. So, a controversial finish, to say the least. Interference, weapons, moral choices.
Definitely. The commentary team right after, they were talking about that dynamic, Paul's athleticism, how fast he's improved versus Styles' experience. But they also hinted at that jealousy factor around Paul's rise.
That whole paying your dues thing again. Paul kind of skipped the line because of his outside fame, and you could feel that tension. Does he belong? Has he earned this spot?
Exactly. And the post-match reactions we saw were really mixed.
Yeah. What were people saying?
Well, one perspective was that it was actually the weakest match of the night. Felt like a standard TV match, not much heat, kind of forgettable.
Ouch. Really? Weakest of the night.
But that's what one source felt, yeah. Another thought it just didn't deliver on the potential, given who was involved. So the crowd seemed kind of quiet, not fully engaged the whole time.
That's interesting. Maybe the drone spot took them out of it. Or the pacing.
Could be. Okay, so how did Dave Meltzer see it in his review?
Meltzer gave it 3.5 stars. He called the match itself good, but he did note the crowd maybe wasn't super hot for the whole thing.
Okay, so technically solid, but maybe lacking that electric atmosphere sometimes.
Potentially. And he confirmed the whole sequence. Jeff, Kross, the Knuckles, Styles refusing them.
And did Meltzer comment on Styles' decision?
Yeah, he doubled down on that idea about the fan reaction. That some fans react negatively when the good guy doesn't, sink to the bad guy's level when given the chance.
So Styles trying to take the high road might have actually disappointed some fans who wanted him to just use the weapon.
That seems to be Meltzer's interpretation. His summary was basically that Paul won by smartly taking advantage of the chaos Kross created. Good match, but maybe a slightly unsatisfying ending for some because of how it went down.
Okay, so there was also this idea that maybe the match tried too hard to be a traditional wrestling match, when Paul's strength is more in those big, breathtaking spots, as one person put it. Maybe leaning into that more would have worked better for Mania.
That makes sense. Play to his strengths, especially on the biggest stage.
And there was definitely a sense of disappointment for AJ. Another WrestleMania singles match for him that just didn't quite feel special or memorable in the way his classics have.
Yeah, you hate to see that for a guy like Styles. He deserves those big Mania moments.
And the finish itself, with Jeff and Kross, that just sparked a whole debate, didn't it? About fighting fair versus doing whatever it takes, especially since other matches that night had similar interference.
Right. The consistency issue. If interference is okay sometimes, but not others, it gets confusing for the audience. What are the rules? Does honor matter, or is it just about getting the win?
Good question. And surprisingly, the match went almost 18 minutes.
That's pretty long for a non-main event Mania match.
One of the longest of the weekend, apparently, which, again, some felt maybe dragged a bit if the engagement wasn't always there.
Length doesn't always equal quality. Fair enough. Sometimes tighter's better.
Zooming out a bit, they dropped some big WrestleMania stats during the show, like 421 total matches ever, 456 different wrestlers.
Wow. Across 26 cities, it really puts the history and scale of the event into perspective. It's huge.
It really is. They also plugged that new Netflix docuseries, WWE Unreal, going behind the scenes with writers and stars.
Oh, yeah. That could be really interesting, seeing how the sausage gets made, so to speak.
Definitely potential there.
Yeah.
And, of course, lots of celebrities dotted around, as always at Mania.
Part of the spectacle, right. Blurs those lines between sports, entertainment, pop culture.
For sure. So, wrapping this up, Logan Paul gets the win over AJ Styles. We had the big moves, the memorable for weirdness drone sequence, the Cross and Jeff interference, and that controversial titanium punch finish.
Yeah, it was a real clash. The established legend versus the new phenom. Different styles, different approaches, different narratives colliding.